Hi everybody, Levi Clay here, the owner of guidedpracticeroutines.com, where we practice together to progress faster. Now, if you've followed my YouTube channel for a long time, you will probably know that I make most of my living as a transcription expert. That means I actually make my living from my ears and the skills that I have developed from my ear training. And ear training is something I'm extremely passionate about teaching to my students, both in one-on-one lessons and, of course, on guidedpracticeroutines.com. Now, I sat down recently to start a new project. I wanted to break down the science of chord progressions. And I've made a course on the website called The Science of Chord Progressions. And as part of that, I knew that I was going to have to sit down and transcribe a lot of songs because I wanted to give you lots and lots of common chord progressions across many different styles. But I knew that creating a PDF with 50 songs in it wouldn't be enough. 100 songs wasn't going to be enough. I had to keep going until we had enough examples of chord progressions in different genres to give you all of the common sounds that you're going to hear in major and minor keys. So I stopped when I got to 350 songs. So if you check out the link in the description, you can go to our website and download a completely free PDF of the Encyclopedia of Chord Progressions. It's a list of functional chord progressions. I say list, we've grouped everything by order. So we start with major chord progressions that introduce non-diatonic chords like the flat 7, very common in major keys. We have a whole section on minor chords, and it's all using Roman numeral function. Now, we're going to talk a lot more about that in this particular lesson, but it's something that I think that you should go and get because, of course, it's free and it's a wonderful practice resource. I cannot tell you how much, even as somebody who transcribes for a living, how much benefit I got from working through all of these songs. So take the time, go and download it and follow along in your practice sessions. So what are we going to talk about today? The thing that I have learned in the 20 years that I've been teaching now is that people learn music in lots and lots of different ways. People have different approaches and appreciation areas when it comes to music. And I think a lot of people, much like myself, when I started playing the guitar, when I picked up a song, it was about memorizing the thing that the guitar player on the song had played. And that's totally fine. It becomes a memorization exercise. It becomes a muscle memory thing. You're trying to remember as much tab as you can, and you're trying to be able to then repeat that back. And like I say, many people, they play the guitar like that for their entire lives, and it never occurs to them that they can go, I don't want to say beyond that, but that there is a course that runs parallel to that. So for me now, what I do as a musician is I play songs. I play with people. I play with musicians. I have to improvise a lot. I play behind singers all of the time. And so my appreciation or my understanding of a song is very different now. So I've got a little analogy for you, right? To really help you understand the importance of the chord progression and how that is slightly different from the exact riffs that are being played. So we've all seen films, and I'm sure you can think of lots of great films in your life. If we think of, I don't know, let's say the original Star Wars, A New Hope. Great film. I'm sure we would all agree on that. But the thing that makes that film great is not necessarily the script. We could retell the entirety of Star Wars A New Hope by giving you the basic beats, the story pattern, if you like. And to me, that's the difference between a chord progression and a guitar part. When I think of Star Wars A New Hope, I don't think of the exact lines that Luke has with Obi-Wan Kenobi on Tatooine. I don't think about the exact lines, but I can think of the overarching idea of the scene. I can think of how Obi-Wan is telling Luke how his father was a great warrior and he was struck down by a man named Darth Vader. Like, that's memorable, but the exact wording is not actually as important to me. Now, we can take this analogy a little bit further if we think about the idea of chord progressions and chords making sense. So to me, having a deep understanding of chords and how they work with each other helps us to tell more effective stories in our chord progressions, our songwriting, but more importantly, our ear training. When we hear music being played, you'll have a better idea of the type of chord that you're hearing if you have examples of chords that happen in the context of songs. A New Hope would be a very, very different film if in the middle of that film, after they've met up with Han Solo and Chewbacca and they get the Millennium Falcon, they leave on the Millennium Falcon, they're escaping. And then there's a detour for 30 minutes where Luke goes shopping for a tuxedo for his high school prom, and then they continue on with the film. That would make no sense. That particular scenelet that I've put in there doesn't make sense in the context of the story. That's what we're good at as listeners. When we listen to music, we can hear when things sound correct, when things belong. And if something is thrown in there that doesn't make sense, we can pick it up. Now, we can learn these things. We can develop these skills by learning chords and chords in progressions and the contexts that we get to hear things. So if we look at the guitar, that was a long intro on that. I'm going to talk to you today about the key of G. Now, when I am dealing in chord progressions, I'm thinking in terms of Roman numerals rather than chord names. The beauty of that is we could do this in the key of G, and I'm not thinking about any of these chords. I don't think about the names of those chords. I think about the Roman numeral function of them. G is the 1 chord in the key, B minor is the 3 chord in the key, C major 7 is the 4 chord in the key, C minor 7 is the 4 but played minor, and then going back to a G7. I'm not thinking of those pitch names. I'm just thinking 1, 3, 4, 4 minor, back to 1. And that's useful to us because if I said to you, I want you to play in the key of G flat, what's the 3 in the key of G flat? You might be one of those players who would need to look at their guitar and say, this is G flat. So this would be the 3rd of G flat. This looks like a B flat to me. Yeah, okay, so we would call this a B flat. But then things get really difficult when we go to that 4 chord because you're going to look at this and say, oh, that's a B major 7. But if we're using music theory correctly, that's a C flat major 7. So chord names, I find, can be more confusing than just having a really good understanding of our Roman numerals. So the important thing to know is you have to know your diatonic chords in a given key. Now, plenty of resources for this online. I'll give you a quick rundown. We want to know and focus on the idea that in a given key, the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord will be major chords. 1, 4, and 5. We could think of those as being our primary chord colours. We've heard those types of chords many times before. Those are our major chords, 1, 4, and 5. Then I would say everything else in the key is minor, apart from chord 7, but we don't need to worry about chord 7 because chord 7 almost never, ever happens. But we'll talk more about that shortly. So if 1, 4, and 5 are major, then 2, 3, and 6 must be minor. So from there, it's a case of just having a good idea of, just from bass notes, this is my 1, my 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I don't play the 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. It's also worth noting that our 6 can be found 3 frets below our root note. So if I'm in the key of G and I said 1, 4, 5, 6, just playing bass notes, I could play 1, 4, 5, 6, 1, 4, 5, 6, 1. And because I know 1, 4, and 5 are major, 6 is minor, I should be able to put chord qualities on those. Chord 1 will be major, chord 4 will be major, chord 5 major, chord 6 minor. So I have a knowledge of those chord qualities, and that really helps. So the thing that's really useful to me is learning common chord progressions. So I have a section in the PDF where you will be able to see what I would call a 1, 6, 4, 5 chord progression. To me, this is one of the first chord progressions you should really get comfortable with after the boring 1, 4, 5s, because it's a common chord progression. It happens a lot in 50s music. Some people would call this the 50s chord progression. We would play 1, which is, of course, is going to be G. The 6 will be E minor. The 4 chord will be C. 5 chord will be D. If I play those chords as a loop, now, common songs that use that, if I play in the key of A, We could go, when the night has come and the land is gone and the moon is the only light we'll see. Could have picked a key that's more appropriate for me to sing in. But yeah, so Stand By Me by Ben E. King is a wonderful example of a 1, 6, 4, 5 chord progression. Now, what you will take from this is that the first thing that happens there is we go from a 1 chord down to the 6 chord. G down to E minor in the case of G. Now, that's a common move. You will look through this PDF resource and you'll see lots of songs that start with a 1, 6. You'll also see lots of songs that start with a 1, have another chord in between, and then go to the 6 chord. Incredibly common. If we take a good example of that, something like Freebird by Leonard Skinner, that's in the key of G, so great example. It's a G chord, there's a chord that happens, and then we end up at the E minor, right? We're going, if I leave here tomorrow. That's the move. There's a chord that happens in between. That passing chord is a great example of practice and study and ear training. So we start on that 1 chord, which is going to be G. Now we're going to E minor, but we're going to take this bass line, G, F sharp, and then E. Now I said to you before that the 7 never happens in the key. Diatonically, that would be a minor 7 flat 5. Sounds awful. Oh. If I leave, definitely not the right chord, right? That never happens. Anytime we have a bass note on the 7, not anytime, but most times when we have a bass note on the 7, that's going to be our 5 chord, so D, with the 3rd in the bass. So a D with an F sharp in the bass. So G goes to D with F sharp in the bass, to E minor. That's a chord progression you're familiar with, right? If I leave here tomorrow, if I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? For I must be traveling on now. Great chord progression, great song. But yeah, that's the motion there. We go 1, 5 chord in first inversion to the 6 chord. So what we're learning here is that this 5 chord played in the first inversion is a wonderful way to transition from the 1 chord to the 6 chord. It's a passing chord that we can put in there. But here's the magic. It's not the only passing chord that we could put in there. So another chord that you're likely to have in there would be a B7, a B dominant 7 chord. When we look at that, we could say, well, why are we doing that? We're doing that because in the key of G, going to a B7 actually isn't in the key. If G is the 1, B is the 3rd chord in the key. Now we know that the 3rd chord should be minor, but in this case, we're not playing minor, we're playing major or dominant, going to that E minor. Now it's a beautiful sound and it works because, again, chord function is the important thing. This B7 is the 5 chord of E minor. So in E minor, B7 will be the 5. 5-1 is strong harmonic motion, so it creates a sense of strong harmonic motion. Your ear accepts it. We create this tension on that B7 chord, which resolves really wonderfully to that E minor chord. So I could play, if I leave here tomorrow. I could also go, if I leave here tomorrow. Now, technically, they're different chords. Technically, what I've done there is I've reharmonized the song. But the reason I'm able to do that is because I understand, functionally speaking, what that chord in between is. It's a passing chord that connects my 1 chord to my 6 chord. If I leave here tomorrow. That's beautiful. That still works for me. I don't hear that and go, oh, that's wrong. It just sounds like a twist on the thing that we already know. Now, this, again, is a common move. 1. So I would call this the 3 chord dominant. So I would write 3, 7. But other people might call this 5 of 6 because E minor is the 6th chord. It's the 5 of the chord that we're going to. They both work. Again, common chord progression. If I went Georgia, Georgia. And we won't keep going. Well, I guess we could. Whole day through. Just an old sweet song. Keeps Georgia on my mind. That B7 chord, really beautiful, and it pulls us to that E minor. So it's just a different way of getting towards the chord that we want to go to. Now, the more you learn about music, the more options you're going to have to place in spots like this. So I'm going to show you one more just to mull over, like a really, really beautiful chord change that you can try out. So that B7 chord is beautiful. But you know what's even more beautiful than playing that B7 chord? If you play that B7 chord in first inversion. So if B sounds like this, the third in the bass will be a D sharp in the bass. Now this is a really beautiful move because it creates that chromatic move up in the bass. The D sharp in the bass of the B7 over D sharp pulls up to the E in the E minor chord, creates this really beautiful sound where we go. That's a G, B with a D sharp in the bass, moving up to E minor. Of course, there's near infinite ways that you could play that on the guitar. To me, the important thing is having a reference, a reason to say, that's a beautiful chord progression and that's what it sounds like. So a great chord progression. PJ Morton has a wonderful song from his Gumbo record called They Gon' Wanna Come. Love this song. It's in D flat. And you have this, when it's all said and done, they gon' wanna come. Bit wrong key for me. Yeah, up there. When it's all said and done, they gon' wanna come. So it's functionally the same thing as the other songs that we looked at there. It's got, well, not the whole chord progression, but the start, the 1 moving to the 6. It is in the key of D flat, the 1 chord going to the 6 chord in the key. But I'm just putting a passing chord in there. Two chord dominant, 4 over 5. Yeah, so all these nice chords that you can play there, but in my mind, I'm thinking functionally. So that's a really fun one. So now I have 3 different options when I'm going from 1 chord to a 6 chord that are all very effective. I can go 1 chord, 5 chord in first inversion. So if I stayed in D flat, just those 3 chords, D flat, and then A flat with C in the bass, going to B flat minor. That totally works. But I could put that 5 of the chord that I'm going to, and I could go. Again. Now if I do that in first inversion, beautiful. Let me do them back to back. All beautiful sounds. Now, in the long run, you want to be able to do these anywhere on the neck, in any key. That's where fretboard knowledge comes in. But what we're really focusing on here is our ears and trying to have song references that do these things. I'm going to leave you with one more song. So I'm a huge Randy Newman fan. Like, I love Randy Newman's music, not just his film scores, but his songs as a songwriter in his own right. And if you take a beautiful song like Louisiana, when you listen to Louisiana, it does both of these things. We're in the key of G, if memory serves me right. Louisiana, Louisiana. It's got that same move, but we do both moves here. We go Louisiana. We do the 5 chord in first inversion, but then we also throw the first inversion 5 of 6, the B over D sharp. So let's have a nice way of doing that. Let's play. If we do it there. So if I play, let's go Louisiana, Louisiana. They're trying to wash us away. They're trying to wash us away. Louisiana. 1 chord. Then we go to our 5 chord D. Louisiana. And then that's our first inversion secondary dominant. Louisiana. They're trying to go up to the 4 chord. 4 over 5. And then it does some slick inversion things that we don't need to work on. But yeah, so I want you to listen to that song and I want you to hear in the chorus, it doesn't just do the freebird. It mixes them. And this stuff becomes more beautiful when you can play open voice triads like that, right? Let's be slicker than that. I'm playing a lot of chords there, I know that. But hopefully what you can take from that is the importance of studying chord progressions, really listening to songs and chord progressions, and getting deep into the weeds of what chords work in different songs and what they do, the function of the chords. And, you know, then you apply the fretboard knowledge to it and everything becomes beautiful. But without that knowledge, when it's just, I'm going to memorize the tab, you're losing the beauty, which is focusing on the story, not the script. Focusing on what happens, not what's being said. Focusing on the emotional impact, not the power of a line. Hopefully that makes some sort of sense to you. If you have any questions, sound off below. And please do make sure you head on over to guidedpracticeroutines.com, link in the description. Get yourself that completely free PDF. And I'm here if you have any questions about that. If you need help or guidance, or if you want to suggest some of your own songs that you think would make good additions to that PDF guide, then let me know, because I'm always going to be expanding upon that. So I very much would appreciate your input on that. So thank you very much for checking this lesson out. I've been Levi Clay. You have been awesome. Have fun. Go do some practice, and I will see you on the other side.